This is Gary Atencia with CNTV, and today we're at the Highlands Ranch location of Drive Safe Driving Schools. Since 2008, they have been providing comprehensive driving educational programs for youth, adults across the Front Range and beyond. I am here with Ben, who is the founder, CEO. Let's start off a little bit about yourself. 2008, you began educating people. You've expanded that throughout the state, really the largest driving school here in Colorado. Tell me how this got started for you.
Our mission from the start was to help kids reach their potential, prepare them for their futures. We felt driver's education was a great place to start. We looked around and saw the way driver's education was taught in high schools and through other companies. We thought there was just a much better way to do it. We thought we could take a very positive, very supportive, very engaged approach and really build on that. And the success has been, now it's 10 locations, it's thousands of students a year. People seem to like what we're doing.
Obviously, driving is so common to anybody. We as Americans, we almost think it's a right. Yet we know it is a privilege. Like any privilege, there are responsibilities. Are the responsibilities pretty high when it comes to driving?
Because that's one of the things we talk about. It's a huge responsibility. It's a great milestone. And for many teens, really perhaps most, it's really their first adult activity. So one of the things that we do that's a little bit different, so we treat our students with respect, we role model good behavior for them. So we're not only just teaching them how to drive, but we're also teaching them to be the adults that they're going to be, become responsible decision makers, as well as responsible drivers.
As you said, a milestone. It definitely is. When I turned 16, I couldn't wait for my 16th birthday because I was going to be able to drive. Yet we as parents, we have to take a little bit more of a proactive approach. Before that date comes along, when should we start reaching out to make sure we have some training in place?
In Colorado, a student can get his or her permit at age 15, and they can start driver's education at 14 and a half. But what I would tell parents is they really want to start thinking about it even beforehand, because their teens are going to watch them every minute. So when you as a parent are rolling through stop signs, or you're talking on the cell phone while you're driving, or you've got one hand on the wheel, don't think that your kids aren't watching you, because they are, and they will model that behavior. So for all the parents of soon-to-be drivers, think about the way you're doing it, because your teens are watching you.
That could be good or bad, it sounds like. Cars are even different than they are today. We have a lot of technology behind the wheel, a lot of gadgets. Let me ask you, do you think it's more important to have training like this today, possibly than it was even 15, 20 years ago?
Well, I'd say it's always been important to have good driving training, but what you say is exactly right. The two leading causes of crashes for new drivers are speed, not surprisingly, but distractions. That's really key. So if you think about the way cars are equipped now with navigation equipment, with satellite radio, not just an AM, FM radio that we may have had when we started driving. So there are many more distractions. So absolutely it's critical that students learn to drive safely. The other thing that happens, I think, for parents, because we've been driving for such a long time, we think of it as second nature. We think of it as almost something that we're born with some innate ability to drive, but we're not. It's all a learned skill. It's like learning sport or an instrument or a new language. And that's the way we want new drivers and their families to think about it.
Let's start with the programs. I'm starting with teens. At what age are they able to come in? Starts with comprehensive classroom instruction. What takes place here?
Yes, so what we recommend for students, they can choose to do their classroom portion online or live. There are some benefits to each approach, but the classroom portion is 30 hours, and completing that program will enable a teen to get his or her permit on 15th birthday if they desire. Some will really shoot for that date. Some will start a little bit later. It's always fine as long as you get the education in there. So what we try to do with our classes at Drive Safe is we recognize that a 15-year-old sitting for 30 hours in a classroom can be a real challenge. So what we do is try to make it engaging. We try to make it positive. We have lots of activity, so it's not just an instructor talking and talking and talking. So we try to make it as interactive as possible, try to make it as fun as possible so that the learning really sticks.
Absolutely. My father always said, it's not only you that you have to be concerned with out there, but it's the other driver. How important is defensive skills? And you guys even devoted a day to that.
Yeah, I would say learning to drive defensively is critical to driving safely, and what you point out is exactly right, that, you know, as parents we think about we're supposed to teach our kids how to swim, we're supposed to teach our kids how to ride a bike, and that's absolutely true, but the societal impact that you have in learning those things is limited to, you know, you yourself. Learning to drive, you are out there on the road with a vehicle that weighs 1 or 2 tons, and you have not just your own life and the life of your passengers in your hands, but also those around you as well. And the thing I would point out about learning to drive and learning to drive defensively, so much of it is in the decision making. When we think about learning to drive and when parents bring their students to us, they're primarily thinking, or at least initially thinking, about learning the skills, learning how to steer, learning to accelerate, to brake, and learning to search properly. And all those things are obviously very, very important, but really it's the decision making that ultimately keeps you safe. Even sometimes the decision making whether to even, get in the car if the weather is bad. And that's really our approach, is to really focus on that decision making.
Not only in the classroom, not only behind the wheel, but even the decisions before you get in the car. Once they've gone through some classroom, be it online or in the class, we're now behind the wheel. It's a one-on-one experience, I would imagine.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So the requirement in the state is 6 hours of driving lessons with a professional certified instructor. The way we do it, we break it into 3 2-hour lessons, always one-on-one, so just the teacher and the student in the car together. We find that to be a much more productive use of time. And we break our lessons into really 3 different categories. So our first lesson, we're working on basic skills in the car. So a student may not have had much experience at all. So we'll typically start in a parking lot, make sure a student can be safe out on the road. And then we work on just the basic skills, the fundamentals of steering, of searching, of braking, of accelerating. Then typically what we'll do is send that teen home to work with their parents for a couple months, maybe accumulate 10, 15, 20 hours of experience and come back for a second lesson. And then in the second lesson, what we'll do is we'll increase the speed and we'll increase the complexity. Maybe we'll make it to downtown Denver if the student is ready, but we're going to work on urban skills. How do you turn if it's a double turn lane? How do you change lanes within a congested environment? So a different set of skills. And then same thing, when the lesson's over, hopefully we'll have a conversation with the parent, talk about what we worked on, talk about what went well, talk about what are the skills to be developed. New driver will go practice another 20 hours or so, come back for a third lesson. The third lesson will get, again, even faster, even more complex. We'll merge onto highways. We'll practice working at speed, changing lanes as well. Maybe we'll get to do some mountain driving also. So we're always trying to build on what we have taught, increase the competence, increase the confidence as we go.
A really progressive approach. Each one of the students behind the wheel. Now, to make sure that what was taught is actually learned, are there tests throughout that you actually give? Because I would imagine this is beyond the standard testing that the state requires.
Yeah, and that is an excellent point. When it comes time to taking the license test, which happens after a new driver has held his permit for a full year, you take the license test. And most students will pass it the first time. Some won't. They might make some mistakes, and they'll pass it the second time. Just because you can pass your license test doesn't really mean you're ready to be safe out on the road. In some ways, each time you get out and drive, it's a little bit of a test, because it's an opportunity to say, have I done everything safely? Have I made the right choices as I've driven? So there are kind of markers all along the way. What we do at Drive Safe is, after every driving lesson, we have what we call our progress tracker, where the driving instructors come back and will just sort of indicate in each of 10 different skill areas how the new driver is doing. How's her steering? How's her braking? How's her searching? So those are kind of these tests that are always going on, but they're not pass-fail tests. They're really markers of progress.
Back in the day, it was not as accessible to get this type of training, I don't think, because of the fact that you didn't have locations set up like this, and you didn't have the accessibility of online that would accommodate some of the classroom.
Well, one of the things we did with our online program, we were a little bit slow to bring it on because we did not want to introduce it until we felt we could do it right. There was a sense, unless we felt we could match the quality of our classroom experience, we were fortunate enough to have some real technical experts who are also our driving instructors, and we were able to build the program. It's the only program of its type built in Colorado by Colorado drivers with Colorado driving conditions in mind, because we've got unique weather, we've got unique geography, we've got congestion in Denver that we didn't have a generation ago. So we feel really good. And we know for some students the classroom program is the right option, but we know for others who have either schedule demands or have a learning style that is better suited to an online program. So really, regardless of your learning style or schedule, there's a good option for you.
Got something for them. So regardless of their teen or also adults. Let me ask you, are these adults that already have the driver's license, don't have a driver's license, or a little bit of each?
We'll see both. So adults who haven't driven before, and that's always always a challenge. If you think about learning a new skill as an adult, maybe you're trying to learn to ski or snowboard and you never did it as a young person, it's a challenge because your habits are really ingrained, so you can imagine. But we've taken adults who've never driven at all and made them good, solid, competent drivers by the time they're finished. Other drivers, sometimes a parent might even come in with a son or daughter and say, you know what, I would really benefit from taking a lesson. Sometimes we'll have adults who have perhaps lost their license due to a number of different circumstances or haven't driven for a while, and they'll come in and really need to get refreshers, maybe learn things they had never learned properly before, or maybe relearn things that they had learned. So yes, teach a lot of adults as well.
So you're basically saying it's never too late to learn. Does this help with employment in a lot of ways? I mean, I was thinking somebody who is like a nanny or driving my kids around, I would love for them to be trained like that.
At DriveSafe, we actually do a fair amount of fleet training. So we deal with organizations like Up With People, the very well-renowned public service organization. Each year they bring in a group of their new employees for the summer, and we'll do training programs, and we'll do other companies that have, large fleets out on the road will come to us and have them instruct their adults. Helps with insurance rates, also helps teach things that they don't know. The driving rules are a little bit more obscure than we tend to think they are. An example would, where do you stop when you come to a stop sign? I'd say probably 80% really don't know. People think, do I stop at the stop sign? Do I stop at the line in the road? Do I stop at the intersection? But there are very specific rules, but most of us either never learned it or forgot it somewhere along the way.
Even when the adults need a lot of education out there, obviously technology can be distracting. We're talking about iPhones, smart watches, things like that, but you're also utilizing technology to help train some of these students. One of the things I've never seen before is drunk goggles. Tell me about that.
Yeah, those are great. That's a tool we use at our Defensive Skills Day that is really helpful. We also use it in our classrooms as well. And the idea with the drunk goggles is they're vision impairment goggles is what their technical term is, but they're a way to disorient a student so his or her vision is impaired somewhat at the level of what someone who may have had 3 or 4 drinks would be. So it makes you a little dizzy, makes you a little bit off balance, and then we'll put students through their paces. In the classroom, we'll have them toss a ball or stack cups, and they really see just how difficult it is and what an irresponsible decision it would be to be driving while impaired, whether through alcohol or drugs or pills or whatever means. And even in our Defensive Skills Day, which is our 5-hour program that is highly recommended for our students, where we get to go out on a driving range and practice things we can't practice on the road, like skidding, other defensive avoidance maneuvers, and also students could get to experience what it would be like to drive while impaired. And after going through that experience of driving with the drunk goggles on, most understand that this is not something they want to do.
You've obviously become the biggest driving school in Colorado, not by yourself. This was a vision you started, a way to do it better. A lot of it falls on the shoulders of a great staff. Tell me, do they go through a pretty rigorous training to be helping these kids?
Well, we only hire people we feel that connect to our mission of helping our students reach their potential. We have found even individuals who might seemingly have the skills to be a driving instructor or a center manager, unless they really are connected to the mission of helping young people develop. Part of what we have is our staff in terms of our managers who run our centers, but the driving instructors and the classroom instructors as well. They are phenomenal. They go through an intensive hiring process and then an intensive training process as well. I'm very proud of the curriculum that we've developed, and one of the great things about it is it's been developed by our driving instructors. At each of our 10 locations, we have lead driving instructors who are experienced, very talented, who are the best of who we are, and they have really brought their expertise and passion to the classroom and to our behind-the-wheel curriculum, and no other driving school does that.
Fantastic. Viewers, take a look at the bottom of the screen there. First of all, take a look at some of these great programs out there. We're talking about car control, road management, risk management, safe decision-making. All these things take place right here under this roof. Multi-locations across Colorado, basically along the Front Range and beyond. That is driver's education. You can check out their website. Also take a look at their schedules, classes. They've got the rates right there. They love open communication between parent and the center here, so give them a call if you're not sure. You can check out also the testimonials online, not only from the students, but from parents who are pleased that their kids are getting out there on the road in a safe environment, in a safe way. One of the things when you began this, you felt you could do a better job of what was possibly out there. This has probably gone beyond what you expected, I would imagine, even 8 years ago.
It's what I'd hoped, but didn't necessarily have an expectation, whether doing driver's education, which was traditionally done sort of in a scary kind of way, showing these terrible crash videos and really trying to scare teens into driving safely, despite the fact there's no evidence at all that you could scare people into learning. In fact, it doesn't really make sense if you think about the ways we learn as adults or the way kids learn best. So we felt a very positive, supportive approach would really do well, but we weren't sure what the reception would be. We just felt we were doing the right thing. And the fact that we've been able to expand the way we have suggests that this is the right way to provide driver's education.
Before we let you go, I'm going to have you expand a little bit on the Barron education. This is just one aspect. Got B prepping, B tutoring. There's a lot of different ways you're now helping students. Touch on those for me.
Yeah, well, I've spent most of my career in education businesses, so helping students prepare for standardized tests, young adults prepare for their careers as well. So we started DriveSafe in 2008, and 2 years later we added our College Drive, our academic division, where we teach SAT classes, ACT classes, do academic tutoring, admissions consulting to help students get into college as well. In addition to the thousands of students we help with driver's education, we're also able to help thousands more with the process of getting into college. I like to say that to parents, that we handle the two things in life that are scariest to them, teaching their kids to drive and getting them into college.
A Milestone Education Company. Viewers, take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. You're going to see their contact information once again. Check out their website. Also like them right there on Facebook. They'll actually keep you apprised of a lot of the laws, different things that are changing. You can find out that you can no longer smile on your driver's license here in Colorado. Some very unique things that you're going to learn here. But obviously, come on in with your student. If you're an adult out there looking for that situation where you need a driver's license, come in and do that as well. That is driver's education since 2008. Don't just learn to drive, drive safe. This is Gary Atensi with CNTV. And if you don't know, now you know.